This is episode 99 of Off Script with Trish Glose, intimate interviews and fun conversations with interesting people. Joining me via Skype today, I am so excited. It's Professor Paul Mitchell. You are the coordinator of recruitment and retention at University of Nevada, Reno, my alma mater.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes, I am. How are you?
I am so excited for this interview today. I don't know what took me so long to get you on this podcast. It took a pandemic, honestly, because we're doing all of these via Skype, and so it's
I
limitless.
understand. Yeah. I'm so excited to be on here, man. Just to see you and to converse with you. This is pretty cool.
It's super cool. I just got off the phone with my mom probably 20 minutes ago, and I told her who I was interviewing today.
How's she doing?
She's doing great. She's doing great. She's in
Good,
South Carolina.
good.
She said,
Okay.
"Oh my gosh, tell him I said hello and tell him thank you for keeping you on track."
Well, please tell her I said hello, and we're both very proud of you.
I will. So before I get into, I always like to start these conversations with where are you from originally, but before then, we have to tell, obviously, we met because of UNR, but we met before I even attended that school.
Yes, yeah. So I'll start where I'm from. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I worked in the newspaper business, and I went from the newspaper business to academia. I went to the University of Missouri, and the reason I went was because they were paying for my education, and it was free, and I could teach, and so that's how I got started. I met a professor there who became the dean. He was leaving to become the dean at the University of Nevada, Reno Journalism Department. And he asked me to join him. And that's how I ended up in Reno, Nevada.
Yeah.
And so so he asked me, he wanted me to do recruitment, and he wanted me to teach. And so I remember, going to Las Vegas and meeting you. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, wow, this kid's pretty dynamic. And then you came for your campus visit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget this. When we walked into, I took you all around the building. There was a group of you, and I took you guys all around the building. And then when we got to that studio, it was on like hot buttered popcorn. You got in there, and you just started sashaying across. I said, "Go sit at the stage, go sit on the set." And you were the only one. You were the only one who walked over and sat at that anchor desk, and you started talking, and I looked and I said, "That kid's got it. She's got it. I want that kid here at this institution because she's got it."
Whew.
And thankfully, you came, you attended the university, and look at you now. I mean, it's just been something, that progress. And, it was crazy because I also remember us going at your graduation party.
Yep.
And breaking bread. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at you and your mom and your family's there, everybody's sitting there, and it was just a beautiful thing. And then, I don't know if you remember this, years later, I'm at work, and someone says, the office secretary says, "Yeah, Paul, there's somebody here to see you." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't have an appointment." And I look out, and it's you and Chuck, and I'm like, "Shut the front door. Are you kidding me right now? Are you kidding me right now?" That was the best.
Yeah.
That was the best to see you guys come down. And that was the first time I'd met Chuck, and it was just like, wow, man, this is really happening.
You just got me super choked up. I don't think that's ever happened in this
Oh my God.
podcast.
The only thing that would have made it better if you would have brought Handsome Samson. That would have been the icing on the cake, man.
I hear you.
Handsome Samson, that would have been the icing on the cake, man.
Let's go back to you being a kid in Philly. What was it like growing up in Philly?
Philadelphia's a very Philadelphia's a very different place than being out here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I mean, uh, Philadelphia is the fourth largest city, well, now the fifth largest city in the country, and it was just at that time when I was growing up there was a lot going on in Philadelphia, and I always tell people I love being from Philadelphia. That will always be home. Um, but the West is more conducive to my lifestyle. I don't regret anything that happened in Philadelphia. It's just that out here feels a lot more comfortable to me.
Sure. Did you grow up with siblings?
Yes, one brother and one sister.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're both back in the Philadelphia area.
And
So yeah,
what was Paul Mitchell like in high school?
who was Paul Mitchell like in high school? Um, I was, I played sports. Um, I was, it was the combination of sports nerd and academic nerd. Not a lot of people were really pulling that off. You're either in one camp or the other camp. And I kind of crossed over a lot of different camps,
Yeah.
Quite honestly, in high school, I was born and raised in Philadelphia, but then my parents moved us out to a suburb that was like 20 minutes from the city. And then we moved out to a suburb that was about 45 minutes from the city. And we had 3 acre lot out there. And so my childhood was very different from other kids. I saw city life, I
Hmm.
saw suburban life, I saw deep suburban life, and so all of those really influenced who I am today and what I'm about.
Sure, because the burbs are way different than the city.
No question, no question. And then when you go to the deep burbs, when you're out there in the deep burbs, that's a whole nother level right there.
Um,
So yeah, I mean, it was just three very different and very distinct ways of living, and I think that they were definitely beneficial to me.
did you know you always wanted to go into journalism?
I knew that I played sports, and because of the connection to sports, I looked at it like if I can't actually be a professional athlete, what would be the next best thing to do? And that was to write about sports. And so that's what I did. That's really what got me in the profession. I met this professor years ago when I was an undergrad at the University of Pittsburgh, and I took a course with him, and I really enjoyed the course. And one day he came up, he was handing back papers, and he said, "Yeah, I'd like to talk to you at the class." And I'm looking at him and thinking, "Oh crap, I forgot to turn in that one paper." And so I went up to him after class. I said, "Yeah, I know that you probably want to talk to me about that paper." That He said, "What paper you talking about?" I'm like, "Okay, that's not what he wanted to talk to me about." And he said, "No." He said, the reason why I want to talk to you is I think you have talent, and I just would like to take you under my wing and really develop that talent."
Wow.
What's crazy, what's crazy is, it's like 10, 15 years later, and I'm at the University of Missouri, and there was this one student I had who was from Pittsburgh. And I said, "I want you to look this guy up when you go back home and tell him that I told you to contact him." And he did the same thing for her. I mean, it was the craziest thing for that to happen, but it was a beautiful thing. I always, and you know how I roll. I mean, I believe that positive energy begets positive energy.
Hmm.
And so that's really what I'm about.
Man, how many times have I heard that from you? Oh my gosh. a lot. And sometimes that's all it takes, right? Is that one professor
Yeah.
that you really either look up to slash are afraid of for them to say, hey, you've got something here. Let's work with it. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah, I mean, and because of our relationship, I mean, you worked in our office.
Mhm.
You worked in our office, you were answering phones, and I'm looking at that also as part of your development. It was the way you answered the phone. It was the way you spoke to people. It was the way that you connected with people that I knew was going to translate into what you were very passionate about. And so, when you see that passion, when you see that activity, when you see that kind of stick to itiveness, it just translates to what you are now and what you're doing now. I mean,
Nice.
I'm a golf, I'm just gonna be real here, Trish. If you had wanted to, you could have gone major network. I really believe that, but you found a place that was comfortable for you, that was home for you, and you found a wonderful guy. That's my dude. I love that dude. And so it's like, why would you leave
Yeah.
a community? What do you want? More money? What do you want? You want a bigger house? What do you want? Do you want to just go to work, know everybody in the community, have everybody know you, and then you can go home and have a glass of wine and cook a great dinner with you?
Oh man, you
I mean,
do know me.
oh man, I mean, that's just nothing better than that.
Yeah. It's so funny that you brought that up. We had an editor who worked in LA a long time ago, and he moved up here and he just wanted to edit video. He could do so much more, but he just wanted to lay low for a bit after working
Mhm.
in the LA market for so long. And
Yeah,
he and I were talking about, moving on to bigger markets. And he was like, Trish, don't do it. Don't do it. He said, you
yeah.
can make a bigger impact here in Southern Oregon than you can in a bigger market. And that has always stuck with me. Uh-oh, you're frozen. Oh, there you are.
Just froze.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that has always stuck with me as far as making that impact, right? And connecting with those
Yeah.
people. You can do that in a smaller market like this.
I mean, when I were, my dream was to go to New York, work for the New York Times. That happened, and I always tell people, be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes you can get caught up in that meat grinder, and New York it's the city that never sleeps, and that's because it's constantly grinding you up. Um, and so, I would leave. I remember leaving New York at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and it would be like at least 10 to 15 degrees hotter in the city because I lived in New Jersey, so I'm going back across the bridge in New Jersey, and you could feel the heat lessening. There's so much concrete in the city, and I lived on the beach, and I'm thinking, there's no way in hell I'm leaving the beach to go live in New York City. What
No
that
way.
that's just kind of stupid.
Yeah, stupid.
And so, and it was also like halfway between where I live was halfway between Philadelphia and New York, so I could run home if I needed to, or I could run up to work. But it was like, you deal with all of that, but you're also dealing with all that encompasses.
Mm-hmm.
Food is more, transportation is more. I mean, I remember paying tolls. What people would pay for like a decent meal, I'm paying in tolls.
Right.
you
How long?
know,
How long were you with the Times?
I was there briefly because the job came up with the University of Missouri.
Right.
It was only a couple of months, and when the thing came up with Missouri, it was like, well, I got to go, because at that point in my life is like I don't know when I'll get another opportunity to go get a master's degree.
Right. And were you? just going to school at the University of Missouri, or were you also doing teaching stuff too?
I was teaching. That was part of the gig.
Okay.
I had there was a friend of mine who I worked with at the National Sports Daily, which was the first daily sports newspaper ever. Um, and we all kept in contact after the National folded. And he said, there's this opportunity, you might want to look at it. And I looked at it. And a couple years prior to that, I had gone through a program through the University of Arizona, which allowed me to start my master's degree. And that's why it was like, I probably need to do this now because it will give me an opportunity to complete the master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when we get in, as you know, when you get into this business, you get into the news business, your life is the news business. That's really what you're trying. You're focusing all of your energy is focused on the news business. It's focused on getting the story. It's focused on getting better. It's focused on advancement. And so you kind of lose sight of, well, education. That doesn't really mean anything. You're trying to get that next story.
Yeah.
Well, when I was in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and I got into this program that sent me to Tucson, Arizona for 2 months, and I was just immersed in work. And and there was a portion of this program where it allowed you to, like I said, to start your master's degree. Well, there were about 15, 20 of us in the program, and only about 5 or 6 of us took advantage of the opportunity to get to start on your master's degree. So my friends are going to Sedona and down in New Mexico, and I'm stuck working on my, some project that I had to do. But I tell you, that was the best thing to happen to me because that, allowed me to pursue this University of Missouri deal. And so that's why I decided to go on and complete the master's degree.
So did you fall in love with teaching? Was there something about teaching that you just really enjoyed?
Yeah, the craziest thing is when I got to Mizzou, I had never taught before in my life. I had never taught anything. And to be honest, the prospect of teaching was not really thrilling to me because my parents were teachers. And sometimes you don't want to be like your parents.
Right.
You know how that,
Yeah.
you know. So I go to Mizzou and it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And a lot of those people, a lot of my former students was crazy. I mean, so I had one former student who's like, he's the lead person on any what does he say? He's like the Grim Reaper at ESPN. When people see him at something, they're like, oh crap, we're going, this is not going to end up well. And so he's on the investigative team at ESPN.
Nice.
He's the lead dude so he's one of my former students. I mean, all of my former students at Mizzou have been successful. And we all stay in contact. I went to visit them. There was just this connection that I had and that I still have with those kids, to this very day. And then that translated to when I came to the University of Nevada, obviously but there's so many other students who, former students who I see now, and I just go, wow, and to have a hand in that is something that is really huge to me.
What are some of those success stories from, whether it was from Missouri or Reno? What are some of those success stories, those students that have passed through those J schools that you see now that are just doing it?
Well, like I said, TJ Quinn is the investigative lead at ESPN. What's crazy is now, I'm old enough that, I'm looking at his kid. His kids have gone through Mizzou, and they both are doing journalism, which is kind of crazy.
Oh man.
but I remember TJ when he comes he came there was a boxing match in Reno, and he contacts me. He stays at my house. I fix him French toast for breakfast. He still talks about that. I mean, it was like, so it was that kind of connection. Um, and there was one other person I remember. So when I went to Mizzou, I got a call from a friend of mine who worked at this. He was the editor of the Sporting News, and he said, I was thinking about taking the job, and he said, Paul, if you take that job, um, as a Mizzou alum, I promise to come back and start an internship program. And I'm like, are you serious? He goes, I'm dead serious. And sure enough, he comes and he starts the program. And there were several. The first year that he did that was my second year. It was my first year there. He said, so who do you have? I said, I showed him the names of the kids, and he goes, is there somebody on here who you think is really I said, yeah, there's somebody I think who stands out above everybody else. And he said, well, who is that? I said, well, I'm not going to tell you. Let's see what you think. You're going to be the boss, so let's see what you think. So at the end of all the interviews, he came back to me and he said, there's some really talented kids, but there was one who stood out, and it was Laura. And I said, that's it. She's the best. She is without question the best kid. And he took her, and so she interned with him. She ended up writing several books for the what was it? She was working with the she wrote a cookbook. That's what it was. She wrote a cookbook and got the top recipes from every player and for every NFL franchise around the country. So, to watch that, I've seen kids leave the profession and go into advertising and PR. That happens a lot. Mm-hmm. And so, a lot of kids are PR professionals, advertising professionals. Dave Nakamura is the lead person for the Washington Post who covers the White House to this day. So, I mean, it's, when I see that, and then, coming to Nevada, I mean, it's just been, I know right now another former top student. I heard from her. This was right before the pandemic hit, and she is the youngest executive at Netflix.
Dang.
She's like 20. She's like 20, 25.
Wow.
24, 20. I mean, when I look at her, it's so crazy. When I look at her, I see you. I mean, it's just like, okay, she was like, I'm going for this. I'm getting this. I'm going in. I'm just taking names. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And to watch this young lady, I mean, what's the one that won the Oscar, the foreign film with it was like 4 women.
Yeah. I can't think of their name, but yes, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, she wrote all of the advertising, the promo. She did all, she publicized that movie, and that's really what got her, elevated into this other position because of the work with that.
Right. Well,
there's all these success stories. I could be here for hours.
I know. I was just thinking that there's so many successful people, different levels of success, I would say too, with these students definitely. Who've come through the J School.
Yes.
I remember you specifically. There's probably 2 or 3 professors from this J School that had such a huge impact on me that even 20 years later, I'm still saying things that you guys said to me in class to the new reporters that get into my newsroom. So
Right.
to me, that's impact. And I remember you, the first day of news writing, you threw, I believe it was a hard-boiled egg on the table.
Yep.
You said, what is news? And you threw an egg on the table. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then we had a discussion, and then you threw a raw egg on the table and it went everywhere.
Yeah.
And you said news is all around you.
Yes. I mean, it's, sometimes you can look at something and everybody will see the same thing, but then when you actually open it up, you see that it's different. And that was what I was trying to get you guys to see. Sometimes it's soft boiled, hard boiled, sometimes it's scrambled, you know. I mean, and it just, it's advertising, it's public relations, it's all of that. It's all of that.
How has journalism, even in the last, let's say, 20 years, how has that changed our
hmm
industry, and how really has it remained the same? I'm sure there's still elements that are exactly the same, but how has it changed for us as journalists?
Well, I remember when you were in school, there was this thing called the newspaper. And most people don't know about it, but it was something where you actually physically picked up this paper,
Got your fingers
this
dirty.
lump of paper, and then there were pages, and you actually turned the pages, you know, and so that has since gone away, and and as a former newspaper person, I can say this: the newspaper business is a dead business. And the newspaper business is a dead business because it brought it on itself. It just, instead of reinvesting, they gave out dividend checks each month to all their investors. And they never reinvested in the product. The news cycle, when you were in school, the news, was like, okay, that was really kind of the advent of segmented news like BET, ESPN, all the Spanish stations that are that wasn't around. A lot of that wasn't around when you were in school. So to watch the evolution of of news, um, and now from a sports standpoint, you don't have to have a beat writer for a team now because the teams have brought that stuff in house for themselves. They announce who's injured. They announce, they have their own video staff. They have their own writing staff. They have their own social media staff.
Right.
You know, I mean, there was no social media around when you were in school. It's
Nope.
just, so to watch all of this happen, and to watch the kinds of jobs, all of it is still news. It's just that it is shifted, and I think that's the biggest thing, from when you were in school to when to now. I'm looking at Shelby and some of the things that Shelby can do, and Shelby learned in school. Well, you weren't doing that when you were in
Mm-mm.
school. So it's just kind of repackaged, rebranded, and that to me, those changes I think you are the things that I've noticed. I also look at it like when I'm teaching. You know, I remember I don't know if I did this with you, but I did something about JFK. And I took the kids through that actual day because many of them they knew about it, but they hadn't really experienced that.
Right.
And so I took them through that day, and they had to research, and then there was a point where it was like, okay, these kids have no clue who JFK is. So it was like I have to shift who the focus is. Who we're going to write about and what we're going to write about, and that usually happens every 7 to 10 years is what I've learned after doing this. You have to flip it because their kids are like, who I don't know who that is. I have no idea who that person is.
Right.
And you're thinking, really? But yeah, really, they don't know.
Yeah, I've also found too that even just some of the old school journalists that I've talked to here at the local paper, that it seems like anyone can be a journalist these days. They can look something up on their
Mm-hmm.
phone and share an article on Facebook, and boom, they're sharing news. And
Yeah,
we, as consumers of news, have had to be more careful in what we're looking at. And I mean, I learned that in J school for sure. When you have a source, you can't just
right,
rely on that one source. You have to go and check it out between two or three other sources to make sure it's legit.
right. Well, one thing that my former boss and mentor, Frank DeFord, he always shared this one. He said, and he got this from, there was somebody in Chicago, and they said, if your mother says she loves you, check it out. So you're always just trying to verify some bit of information, some piece of information, because you can get burned on that. We
Hmm.
had that happen with there were some students this year who got burned on something with the sagebrush, and it ended up poorly for them because they didn't do the due diligence. They didn't check through stuff, but they learned through that
Yeah.
process, and hopefully it won't happen again with them.
Well, I mean, I'll tell you right now, just working, being an actual journalist in a news station, I remember traveling an hour and a half to cover a wildfire, and I forgot my tripod.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh my.
straight up forgot my tripod. Do you think that has ever
Oh
happened
my.
to me again? Nope.
Oh no.
It only happens
No.
once, and it does not
One
happen again to
time.
you.
That's right. You only need one time.
And I go back to Travis Lynn, who used to say
Hmm.
the difference between an amateur and a professional is attention to detail and a sense of routine.
No, that is, truer words have never been spoken, man. I mean, I'm also looking at what's going on currently, and I'm not trying to get in anybody's politics, but uh, a true journalist is somebody who is, they're not trying to make the story about them. They are trying to get the story. They're trying to get at the truth. They're trying to
Yeah.
get at facts. It is never about them. And so, I'm looking, like I said, in the current climate, you know, there's personal attacks against journalists. And what many folks don't realize is that, journalists are not trying to make it about them individually. They're trying to get at the truth.
Hmm.
That's all. That's all. Any professional journalist, someone who has actually gone through and taken classes on ethics and you know just trying to understand the true tenets and values of journalism. It's never about them. It's always about the story.
Yeah, and we're seeing that a lot right now. So many attacks on our profession, and
Yeah.
it's 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 I don't know even what to say about it. It's so hurtful, and at the same time, I just wish people would understand basically what you just said. We're not in it for us. We're in it because
Right.
there's things out there that need to come to light, and that's what we're fighting for. We're not picking on anyone. We're trying to find the
Right.
truth. So it's
Yeah.
frustrating.
I always, like I said, I'm not trying to get anybody's politics, but I wish everybody could look at. There is an interview that Leslie Stahl did, um, with the current president,
Hmm.
and it's in. All you have to do is put Leslie Stahl fake news, and I wish everybody could watch that. I wish everyone could watch that.
Okay.
Okay, and if they did, I think they would say, oh, okay, okay. Let me revisit what I'm how I'm feeling about this position with journalists now.
Right.
So, I just wish everybody would do that.
Leslie Stahl is one of those journalists. There's several, but she really goes for the gut with this like sweetest smile on her face. It's the best.
Yes, yes. She's just killing you with kindness.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but what's made her successful is she gets the story.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not most of the times. Well, actually, it's never about her. It's about the story.
Right.
You
For
know?
sure.
Yeah.
How has my sweet little J school changed in the last couple of decades?
Wow, man. So, you know, when you were there, I think we had 6 or 7 professors.
Yeah, I was there 98 to 2002 because you said you are not going to be here longer than 4 years, Missy.
That's right. That's right. And I meant that. And I told your mom that.
You did.
Yeah, so it was just like, you know, we only had 5, we had like 6, 7 people. And so at each, it's kind of an analogous to baseball. It was like, okay, we had a couple infielders and a couple outfielders and a couple pitchers. Now, you go in there, you wouldn't even recognize the place. I
Hmm.
mean, um, we've tripled the number of faculty members easily. The one room that I was talking about earlier, where you went into that room, that is now it's still a studio, but we do more. It's more photography based in there. I mean, we built this. We had a guy who built this whole platform thing. Man, it's just like it's it's so cool. It looks like a movie set, you
Wow.
know. And I hate to say this, but we've also kind of moved away from having uh, like a daily newscast or bi-weekly newscast or something like that. We're more into the whole documentary thing. That's really where
Nice.
that's really going. Long format storytelling. Um, that's really huge for us. I mean, I teach a narrative storytelling class, and this was this was a year ago. I had a student for this class go to some part of Mexico where the cartels have no jurisdiction. They know not to go up into the mountains to mess with these people because these people are armed and they're like, we're not having it. And he went to Mexico, and he was like a former special forces kind of dude, you know,
Wow.
going who left, got out of the military, went to school, to go to school. Just to hear this guy's story is crazy, but this dude is so talented as a filmmaker.
Hmm.
I look at him. There's a young lady. Again, everybody that I see now, because you were one of the first when I got there. Everybody I really kind of compare to you. So there's this one young lady. Um, I had her in class, and I told her one day, I pulled her aside. I was like, you really need to be thinking about going to graduate school
Hmm.
because you think at a whole different level. And so she just won an award. She just won a Webby Award for this documentary she did on gay cowboys in the gay rodeo in Reno.
Wow.
And and she just got accepted into a master's program. I can't remember what school it is now, but I mean, this was literally like a day or two ago. She just announced this, you know. And so, there are so many kids now who are doing documentaries and long
Hmm.
format storytelling that, that's just different from when you were in school. When you were in school it was news. It was short news, hard news. And that has definitely changed
Oh,
now.
super quick. I mean, I tell my reporters today, sound bites for the newscast. I mean, no longer than 15 seconds. And
Yeah, man.
if you really think about it, what are you getting from that? And that's honestly
Right.
a decision why I wanted to do this podcast, because it's long
Hmm.
form, it's unedited. There is no
Right.
way you can put something out there that's, I'm not telling you all of the details. Here it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you
Yeah.
think
I
that's the
mean,
do you think that's the
we got
future?
we oh, no question. I mean, we have a podcast class. Our kids are taking classes in podcasting.
Wow.
Uh, so yeah, I mean, this is definitely the wave of the future, no question.
Right. I want to talk a little bit about anyone who's been into your office
Hmm.
knows that it's highly decorated.
Yes.
You have, I mean, they're masks, right?
I have cultural artifacts from all around the world.
Right. I mean, I can see
Yes.
there's some like right behind you.
Well, this is at my house.
Right? Sorry.
Uh, no, this is at my no problem. But yeah, I mean that transcends into my house too. You know,
Where did this come from?
just
Where did this like passion to collect these come from?
uh, you know, so it really comes from my mother. My
Hmm.
mother was always big on travel. She said, you need to just go out and see the world. And I was telling my kids the other day, matter of fact, we were just talking about this yesterday. The twins were talking about this yesterday, and they said, "Well, Grammy's been everywhere in the world." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah. There's very few places she has not been." So she instilled in me that love of travel, and I'll never forget. I was in Brazil, and and I went to this. I met these young people who were from the States, and they said we're going to go to this restaurant, and we go to this restaurant, and we put in a drink order. Okay, so I'm sitting there, and in the States, man, it's like if you don't have your drinks in like 10, 15 minutes, you're thinking the service is bad, right?
Right.
So about 15, 20 minutes later, they come back with the drinks, and then they said, "Okay, we're going to take your food order." So it was a large group of us. It was like 10 to 15 people, and they take the order, and the guy goes away, and Trish, it seemed like that dude went to go catch the fish. You know what I mean? Like he drove to the ocean, you know, which was a couple hours away. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, now I'm like six, I'm like six, almost 6'4", right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm sitting here like, okay, is it just me or is anybody else hungry up in here? Are we gonna get served today or what? And and what I learned from that was that eating is an event.
Mm.
It is time where you are supposed to sit down and have conversation and enjoy each other's company, enjoy each other's time. That was very different from being in the States,
Hmm.
where you're like, I got to get back to work.
Yep.
I got to go do this. I got to go do that. It's a very different way of life.
For sure.
So, so that was that pat. It came from that, and then going and seeing. I always wanted to get something that reminded me of where I'd been,
Mm.
and I asked students to get me something. When you were in school, there were kids who came from other countries, and so I would ask them, "Look, bring me something back from your country that says this is you. This represents your country." So that's what, a lot of that stuff in my office are my own trips that I have gone on and other people who are from those places and they brought me something back from my office.
How many students do you think you have taught? Thousands?
Jeez.
Thousands?
Uh, yeah. Um, because, and the thing is, um, I'll get asked to come and talk to kids who aren't even in our program.
Yeah.
So for example, each year I go. I was asked to go and talk to these kids who are academically at risk. Okay,
Hmm.
meaning they messed up their first semester, and if they don't get their stuff together by the second semester,
Hmm.
they're going to be dismissed from the university. Okay, so I go on and talk to these people, and what's interesting to me is I can go on campus. I could just be walking across campus. This
Well,
happens so
hold
many
on.
times.
No, you cannot walk across campus with you, Paul Mitchell. You cannot walk
Oh my
across campus
God.
with you. Oh my goodness.
It is so it is so crazy. And you obviously there are kids who come up to me and go, "Hey, I remember you. I remember talking to you, and you really influenced me." Blah blah. I was out. This this is no exaggeration. This was before the pandemic. I'm in Best Buy, and I'm with my girlfriend, and I asked this guy in there. I was like, what goes with this TV? I was trying to, put a subwoofer, and he's looking at me, and he's looking at me. He's kind of looking through me, and he goes, "You teach at the university, don't you?" And I'm looking at him like, okay, most students I remember. I didn't remember this dude, and I was like, "How do you know me?" He goes, "I was one of those kids who was academically at risk." And I said, "Well, so how are you doing now?" He goes, "I made the dean's list last semester."
Oh my gosh.
And I was sitting there looking at him, I was like, my man. I mean, it was just to hear that. It was just like, wow, man.
Well,
You know. So yeah, I mean, it's thousands.
but let's be
It's
real, and I want to paint a picture. You're 6'4".
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You have the most commanding voice out of anyone I have ever met. So there's
Yeah.
this intimidation level with you. So not only was I slightly scared to death of you, I also wanted to make you so proud of me. I wanted to impress you. And so I think that combination, Paul, is so important because we want to look up to our professors. We want them
Yeah.
to be our mentors. And you absolutely were. You and Travis Lynn, you two were my mentors. You changed my life in those 4 years.
I appreciate you, Trish, but what a lot of students don't know is, you know, it's reciprocal because you changed my life
Hmm.
too. You know, just like I said, when I first met you, the first day I met you, it was like that kid's got it, she's got it. I was immediately impressed. But it's a 4-year process, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
a process of you getting better and taking the lessons that you learned in school and the lessons that you learn in life and incorporating those to being the professional that you are now. And like I said, I'm sitting there watching you from my office and how you handled certain situations. You're sitting literally right outside of my office, and you're helping all the other people within in the dean suite because that was in the dean's area. So
Yeah.
you're with everybody, right?
Right. It was
And
butt clenching. Scary place to be.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so you're dealing with people who are coming in across campus. You're dealing
Mhm.
with male people. You're dealing with any kind of situation and circle, parents, students. You're dealing with all of that, right? So it gives you an opportunity to really hone and test your skills on all different people from different walks of life. You
Yeah, it's
know,
true. It's very
my
true.
mom I remember my mom said to me after she got her doctorate. My mom went to Penn. She's Ivy League. Okay, she got hers from Penn.
Mhm.
And I remember somebody came up to her and they said, Dr. Mitchell," and she said, it's just Wilma. It's just Wilma." And I looked at her and and you know I understood what she said. So now when people come up to me, Dr. Mitchell, it's like, it's just Paul. It's just Paul,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and but for those people who are, I'm Dr. So-and-so, well, I'm Dr. Mitchell too, damn it. So, what are you saying? But I mean, it's like, when you were comfortable with yourself, when you were comfortable in your own skin,
Mm.
you know, that's when you really make the connections with people. That's
Oh,
when you make those connections.
that's
And that,
so true.
you think back on your career, Trish, when you were first starting out as a cub reporter up there in Oregon, you know, my guess is you still have relationships with those people,
Hmm.
right? And what's crazy is, and I sent you I remember on Facebook I sent you a message. I'm like, you're not gonna believe this, man. And so, I mean, a good friend of mine's sister was working up there in Medford.
Hmm.
She was doing the Shakespeare
Yeah,
stuff. You know what I'm talking about. I
I
won't
do.
bring her name up. Okay, but it was just like, okay, I know her. I communicate with her. She knows you and her husband, and it was just like, you have got to be kidding me. So
Yeah,
it goes full circle.
it
It goes
does.
full circle.
It does. Absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
and I love that. And I just love, even Shelby Riley, who now works here at News 10. She's a graduate of the
Mhm.
J School. And we both
Mhm.
get it. When we talk about the J
Yeah.
School, we both get it. No one else really does, but we get it.
Yeah. I'm really proud of Shelby and you know, um, Shelby. I don't want to give away all of it, but Shelby has some challenge, has some major challenges. And to see where she was and to see her now,
Uh huh.
it's and I think it's a beautiful thing. And when she told me that she was going up to Oregon, and she told me where she was going, I was like, oh, you definitely got to look up. You got to look up Trish.
Yeah.
And my thing was, I needed you to mentor this kid. She's the next generation of you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like, get her under your wing and help that young lady out. And she sends me stuff. She wants to make me proud.
Yeah, we
And
all
I
do.
am proud. I am proud of her. Like, I'm proud of both of you guys. But her circumstances were definitely different than
Yeah.
yours. And to see her come through that, it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, she is sunshine and hard work. That is Shelby Riley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Do you guys still do freshman forum? Is that what it was called?
Yes.
That still happens?
Yes. Yes, it does. As
That's
a matter of fact,
that saved my life.
oh man, what's crazy, Trish, is this semester I had a couple young men. Uh, one had a 1.5,
Whoa.
the other had a 2.4. But the one who had the 1.5 really was just a hot mess.
Mm.
Okay, just a hot mess. And that kid has gone from a 1.5 to at least somewhere between a 3.7, 3.8.
Wow.
Okay, in a semester.
Yeah, that's awesome.
In a semester. Okay, and it was, he said to me, he sent me a note. He said, I could not have done this without your help and what you have done for me, and the other kid too. He's gone from a 2.4 to I think he's got like a 3.6. And he said this class saved my life. It changed me in ways that I'm still trying to understand.
Well, Freshman Forum, it was a weekly class, I believe, that just got all of the freshmen within J School together in one room, and you taught studying skills, dorm life, what to expect on campus. It wasn't necessarily a class about journalism. It's how to survive the next 4 years and not be a complete turd.
It was about sex,
Yeah.
drugs, alcohol, time management. It was about all of that. And what's crazy is I think back, because for you, when you were there, it was like a week.
Yes.
Okay. And I think after you left, there was so I remember, I'll never forget this. I went on the last day of class. I said, okay, guys, today's the last day, and good luck to you. And this young lady stood up. She said, we've talked as a class, and we would like to continue this for the semester.
Wow.
Are you willing to do that? And I looked at her like, are you kidding me right now? Oh, and she was, and they were dead, and everybody, they're all nodding their heads like, yeah, we need this. And so I developed it into a semester long class.
Hmm.
A lot of the kids, in my title is Recruitment and Retention.
Right.
And I've always focused, the recruitment is the easy part.
Hmm.
The retention, meaning keeping you there and, on campus and in school, that's the hard part. With you, it was going to be easy, because not only was I going to stay on your tail, your mom was going to stay on your tail. And if I wasn't getting what I needed out of you, I could pick up the phone and call mom and go, yo, I need you to holler at your daughter real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And she, and we would, that's what would happen.
So true.
Now it's like that may happen. There may be parents at home. There may be a split situation.
Mm-hmm.
There are all kinds of things that when you were in school, it wasn't really that prevalent. So now it's a little different in how you reach kids.
For sure.
And so the retention piece is really kind of a tricky thing,
Well,
I know kids who have major support. I know kids who have no support.
Right. Well, that Freshman Forum was my church. That was my sanctuary. That was my safe place. It really was. And, not to be cheesy, but J School, between the faculty and your other students, whether they were in your program or not, it's a family. And so if you are in that building, it's a safe place. And I'm sure it's still the same today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just this semester, Trish, I had a kid who, she was academically at risk coming in. I mean, her skills were not the greatest, and then she comes in, and she took that class with me. She got pregnant. She had a baby, and it was like, is this kid going to even graduate?
Yeah.
Not only is she going to graduate, she's going to graduate with honors. And she and her husband are moving. She just told me this literally last week at the final, because now she's a senior. Mm-hmm. They're moving to Colorado to start their life.
Awesome.
As a couple and as a family, and I'm just like, wow. I mean, it was tenuous at best during, a couple of semesters. But she went through, and to watch this kid's writing develop. I mean, this kid is really a talented writer. So, it happens at different times for different people depending on their circumstances.
For sure. And speaking of that building, so much has changed in the last, 5 weeks with this pandemic. I mean, it's just so unprecedented. Campus shut down, you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, at first it was, we're going to play it by ear. Then the other campus the other university in Nevada, the one down south, they said, we're closing up. We're closing the campus. And UNR said, okay, we're done too. Once the other folks shut down, then we shut down. Then, everybody else shut down. And it was a difficult time, quick story. So when this happened, we were on spring break, and it just so happened that our spring break coincided with the Washoe County K-12 school break. Okay, that usually never happens. Okay. So, it was like, okay, not only are we scrambling, they're also scrambling. Okay. My car died. I had to go. I had gone to get my son a basketball hoop to put at his mom's house. And en route to taking the hoop back to his mom's house, my car dies.
Oh, man.
So I need a new car. And I have a Range Rover, and I wanted another Range Rover. And so I'm on Car Gurus. I'm trying to find this vehicle. And so the young lady I told you about at Netflix, I saw this vehicle in Southern California. And this is how much of a family we are.
Right.
So I call her up. I'm like, how far are you from Costa Mesa? And she says, it's like 45 minutes. I said, well, I was wondering, could you do me a favor? Could you test drive this car? She goes, well, I can't because I got a meeting in San Francisco. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm thinking, okay, who else can I call? I call another student. I was like, dude, how far are you? Dude, how far are you from Costa Mesa? He goes, I'm 10 minutes away. I was like, are you kidding me? He goes, seriously. I said, can you do me this favor, dude? I appreciate it if you would go look at this vehicle. He goes, oh yeah. He goes, he sends me Trish, he sends me all these pictures, blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm getting the vehicle. This is right as the pandemic is hitting.
Yeah.
Okay. I get on a plane to go from Reno to, where was it? Phoenix. And from Phoenix, I was going to go to Orange County. I get on the first thing smoking out of Reno, 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Get up at 4 to be at the airport at 5 to catch a 6 o'clock flight. Flight doesn't take off. 6 o'clock in the morning. We have a problem. It took them an hour to fix it. Only have 45 minutes for my layover in Phoenix. I missed my flight. But as I'm sitting in the airport, first of all, there's only like 30 people on the flight.
Right.
Okay. This one dude sitting next to me, he's spraying and hosing. He's greasing up everything, wiping everything down. He's got the gloves on. And I get to Phoenix. I see a couple walking with masks and gloves on. This was at the beginning of this whole thing, right? So then, I had to wait 3 hours now because I had missed my connector. And so I get to Orange County. It takes about an hour for the paperwork. I get in the car. I'm heading back to Reno, driving up from Southern California. It's rush hour. Traffic's bad. Major accident. It's raining. And as I'm driving, I'm going, if it's raining here, then it's snowing.
Yep.
up in the mountains. And sure enough, that's what happened. Roads were closed, but because I have a 4-wheel drive, I was able, to get back. The reason I say all of that is because, I had to get my kids from their mom. Okay. This is real life. Their mom is also a professor. Okay. She had never taught. I'm thinking to myself, she probably hasn't taught online. She's probably not familiar with all of this.
Yeah.
She's going to need some time. I need to get back so I can get my kids, and I'm going to take them the rest of the week so that she can prep and get ready. And that's what happened. I had already done some Zoom stuff, so I was kind of familiar with the application. As readers, as listeners listen to this, and I said this at our graduation, education doesn't stop when you graduate college. Education that's just the beginning. You have to be willing to really change and adapt. The person who can change and adapt the most, the person who is willing to do that, they're going to be employed for as long as they need to be employed.
So true.
But if you don't have that skill set, it's going to be difficult. So even with this pandemic, you have to be able to, you have to be malleable. You have to be able to change and go with the flow. It's killing me being inside because I miss the interaction with the students. But I know that it would also be killing me literally if I went out there, without a mask on, without listening to science and listening to people who know listening to experts who know much more than I do about this situation.
Yeah.
Those people get paid big money because they know what they're talking about.
Right.
So
yeah.
So I'm listening to Fauci.
Same here.
To Fauci.
Yeah, Fauci's my new hero for sure. Well, I definitely hope things change for the better in the fall. I know it's been probably a weird, rocky spring semester, but I really do hope things change in the fall for all universities because there is nothing like being on a college campus in the fall time. Just there's nothing like it.
Yeah. We had a meeting, we had a Zoom meeting yesterday, and I can say this here because, this will be going on a podcast, but we had a program that was, it was developed several years ago by the provost where you come in a week early, students come in a week early, and they're taking several classes. They're learning about campus life. It's kind of a precursor to what midterm week or finals week looks like. And so we had a meeting yesterday. They're going to cancel that. They're going to cancel that program for this year because logistically it would have just been, it's just too difficult to kind of navigate that. So we've had to scrap that for this year. But the hope is that we will still be on campus in some fashion starting in the fall.
Well, that's good news. I'm definitely going to keep my fingers crossed for that.
Yeah.
We're going to wrap up a little bit and get to the final three.
Okay.
Good, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Best advice you've ever been given?
Best advice I've ever been given. Let me see. I would say always consider yourself a critical thinker, and the whole thing about education, doesn't just stop. You're always learning, you're always educating yourself. That's going to help you and those around you.
Nice. Yes, critical thinking, something I definitely learned from you.
Yes.
You've been in Reno for a very long time. If you ever left that place, maybe it's UNR, maybe it's just Reno, what would you miss about it the most? What would bring you back there?
Well, I'm never leaving. I'm too close to retirement.
Nice.
My kids, the twins are here.
Yeah.
This place has so many things to offer. It has the Four Seasons. It has the mountains. It has the accessibility to the Bay Area. The accessibility to the desert if you want to go the other direction. It has so many things that really fit my lifestyle. Quite honestly, it's inconceivable of me leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love this area that much. I mean, I'm planning. Um, I'm working on this sports card. I'm rebuilding it. And my dream, and I've been dreaming this for the last several years, Trish, and this is, I'm not kidding. I'm dreaming of driving my sports car with my girlfriend up to your house so that we can have wine and I want to see Chuck, I want to see Handsome Sanson, and we're just going to sit out
Mm-hmm.
on your back deck
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to break bread and have wine. That is one thing that I want to do. I told my girlfriend that the other day.
Okay.
So I'm working on this car. I'm trying to get it rebuilt. Um, but yeah, I mean everything that's important to me. I just want to go up the Oregon coast. Cut over to Medford, hang out. Everything is here.
Yeah. I feel you, man.
Yeah.
There are a few places in this world that have my heart, and Reno, Nevada is one of them.
Oh yeah, man.
Always will.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm.
From as an East Coaster, people are like, now where you live again?
Right?
I'm in Nevada, and of course they go Las Vegas. I go
No.
no, in Reno, and they go Reno. Like what the hell's in Reno? And I'm thinking, yeah, you just stay where you are.
Yep.
You know, we don't need that overpopulation
Mm-mm.
out here. You just stay where you are.
We say the same
You
thing in
know,
Southern Oregon. Just come visit and then go
I hear
home.
that.
Go home.
Yes.
Final meal, final drink. What would that look like?
Oh my gosh. Steak medium rare,
Mm. Oh yeah.
potato,
Mm-hmm.
probably probably with some garlic shrimp,
Oh
you
yeah.
know. Um, and for me, I know with the surf and turf, it's like, well, what wine do you drink? But I'm definitely having a glass of red because I prefer red, preferably a Merlot.
For sure.
Uh, but I could, with the shrimp, I'd probably have something, have a sip or two of something light. Uh, yeah,
Okay.
that would probably, along with something chocolate at the end of that.
Of course. Of course.
Okay, for me now, dark chocolate, Hershey's dark chocolate. That's my dessert.
Okay, I'm just letting you know I'm taking notes. So when you and your girlfriend come to Medford, that is the meal that you're getting. Not that it's going to be your final, but I'm making that happen. And the door is always open, Paul Mitchell.
Appreciate you. I'm serious. I've been thinking about this for years because I was in Oregon, and the reason I was in Oregon, and there was this Austin Healey club, and I meet this guy. I'm at this. I'm not. This is no. I'm. This is how fate is. So I'm at this. I forget where I was. It was this water. It's this spectacular waterfall, and there's this group of guys, and it ends up that this one guy is from Massachusetts. They have their vehicles flown out. They fly the vehicles out and
Dang.
drive up down the coast. Okay,
That's
they
another
drive
level.
down to Cali, drive back up to Oregon, had the vehicle sent back over. And I'm looking at this guy's car, and it's almost the same exact car that I have. Okay. And I'm thinking, see, I bought this when I was doing my PhD. When I started my PhD, I went on eBay, I found this car, and I'm like, I'm gonna get this car, and just completely redo it. And it's been years in the making of getting this vehicle done. Um, and so yeah, I was like, okay, now what do I want to do? I want to drive up to Oregon. That's what I want to
Of
do
course.
is drive up to Oregon.
What kind of car?
So yeah, it's a Austin Healey. It's a 1959
Mm.
Austin, and I bought it. The reason I bought it was because I always loved British sports cars, but 1959 is the year I was born.
That's so awesome.
So that's why I'm redoing the car.
I love it. Well, I hope to see you soon. We're going to make this happen.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
If you are listening to this podcast on Apple's podcast app and you like it, please subscribe, rate, and review. It helps other people find us. We're also on Stitcher, Google Play, and SoundCloud. And you can watch it at ktvl.com under features, or you can also find me on YouTube. One more time, Paul Mitchell. My heart is literally exploding right now. You have made my year.
No, my friend, when you asked me to do this, I'm like, I'm going, seriously? Really? I am so happy and I'm so proud to do this. I love you. I love what you've become. I love who you are. And you're just the best, man.
You're the best too. And I love you back. Thank you again. Thank you.
Okay, my friend. Take care. We'll see you.